We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land that we record this podcast on and pay respects to the elders past, present, and emerging.
We must always remember that under the concrete and asphalt that this land is, was, and always will be Aboriginal land. Hi, I'm Rumbi.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Welcome to It's Layered.
In studio, recorded in Melbourne.
Hey.
Can you believe that? I don't know how many times I have to say that to believe that we're recording in studio.
Believe it, receive it, achieve it. That's a mantra right there for your day. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, man. So we've been having a blast, recording the special, and we wanted to talk about the beauty of our Blackness. I think a lot of the time we talk about the struggles or the difficult parts about being Black and so on and so forth, but we also wanted to celebrate ourselves and what it means to be Black. But before we do that, to get into the topic.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, Am.
What you got for us, Rumbi?
The question is, you know you're Black when? So finish the sentence.
I don't know why I'm cracking up already.
Why are you laughing? Okay. Share. Do share.
When you think you can twerk.
Okay. But what about Miley Cyrus? She learned to twerk.
Yeah, she learned, but we think we can already.
But I can't twerk.
Yeah, so but then you have this notion that you could. Don't you? Or at least that you can dance.
Okay, yes, for sure. That's true.
Like if someone said, hey, you got no rhythm, you'd be like, oh, hell no, I'm Black, I got rhythm.
But I also know Black people who can't dance.
Yeah, a whole lot, girl, a whole lot. Even some dancers start out like, is this a dance or some quirkiness that we don't know?
Yeah, that's true. For me, I think you know you're Black when you can't disrespect your parents publicly. You know you'll get a whooping if you try and pretend to be like too cool for school. You know that those things are like, there's some meme or joke about. I went to my white friend's house and they were like, they shouted at their mom, no, Sarah, I won't do that.
Say first name basis, child. Oh God.
And like never. And then you try it at home. Good luck. Though we've spoken about me slamming the door on my parents.
Yes,
and
I don't know how you
survived
had.
that. I don't know.
I don't know. You're still alive today.
Love you, mom and dad. Please don't pay back me. Is there anything else that you...
You know you're Black when nothing is yours. Everything has to be shared.
Oh, like your bedroom when visitors come.
Yeah. You sleep on the floor, bruh.
Yes.
You're like, why am I on the floor in my own room?
I think that's definitely, you know you're Zimbo, bruh.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think you know you're Black when you open the fridge thinking there's ice cream.
It's a sewing kit.
It's a sewing kit, or it's like they repurposed and stored like leftovers. Bruh. The heartache. So savage.
I actually think if I still see like a vanilla or ice cream box container, I just assume there's like beans or something inside.
Exactly.
It's like not ice cream.
Yeah, which is why I was saying like we've been recycling before recycling was a thing.
Yeah, repurposing doing all of that.
Yeah.
But I think you know you're Black when, you can't speak back to elders.
Yeah.
You can't say your actual thoughts.
Yep.
We're muzzled on another level,
you just keep it to yourself in your own head.
Yeah.
There's so many things. You guys feel free to comment and let us know you know you're Black when, because I feel like there are so many.
Yeah.
But I guess leading into the meat of this topic, what is Blackness to you? Like what the hell are we talking about when you say the beauty in our Blackness? What is Blackness?
I guess obviously actually being Black. But more importantly, I think it's just like realizing that due to a lot of different things, we are in some ways a marginalized part of society, especially in diaspora.
Yeah.
But we're also a revered part of society. Like a lot of people use us as reference points, whether they want to credit.
They rarely do.
But it's like a lot of, I think for me anyway, that's how I see it, that we're quite influential without meaning to be. Like what's TikTok without all these trends?
Dances
that a lot of,
and trends,
I guess particularly in that space, African-American experience. But still, even right now, music, Afrobeats is having a moment.
Yeah.
It's undeniable.
Yeah.
So I suppose we've always had if you look at music, even history, like rock and roll, even the blues, all that stuff is rooted in Blackness.
For sure.
So I think
true.
we are influential.
Yeah.
We leave our mark, but we also allow space for others.
Yes.
We're nurturing.
We're welcoming,
people.
I feel.
Because we know what it's like to be ostracized.
Yes.
So we're like, because we know that, we can then hold space for you.
Definitely. And I think I was, as you were speaking, I was wondering, can we agree there's one universal term for Blackness? And I think we can generalize and say there is, but really, obviously, there's different kinds of Blackness.
Yeah, of course.
A Black Brit is different to a Black Colombian, different to, like there's so many, But on a whole, I think for me, Blackness I refer to as like what we bring to the table on a global scale. So
They say Black people create culture, often referred to as the culture on the interwebs.
Yes.
Do you agree?
1000%. You already said it. I think, the cornrows, the Kim Kardashians doing cornrows wouldn't have done it. It came from Blackness. And the crazy thing is when you actually know the root of cornrows, how slaves used to do that to put
pathways.
And seeds in their hair for when they were being transported so that they could continue their food, when they were. So when you know the history, you're just like, but Kim K, what do you know about slavery? Yeah. But anyway. I
feel like you've really been coming for this special.
But I also watch
We do celebrate.
I do also like it, but I'm objective. I try. Okay. But yeah, I think definitely that's the culture. Music, dance, art, food. There's so many elements of what we contribute to culture.
Yeah. But I think also, having said that, we have to give a lot of credit to African Americans.
Yes.
Because I think they've pushed the envelope in what is deemed to be Black.
Yes.
And then worldwide, obviously, with the push of America and media, it's like this... this dance that we do, like they're influenced by Africa, influenced by other Black people all over the world, but the reference point always tends to be African-American lens. And I think when people say the culture, they are actually probably referring more to an African-American experience.
Definitely.
Not to minimize but I think there's a lot of times as Africans, we complain you guys make fun of us. But I think we also have to realize that they've also pushed for us in some ways. The
envelope, yes. Especially in a world, coming from a world where, America has a strong position in media. And so they've represented us, I guess, Blackness well in those spaces or tried to represent Blackness well.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that Black people created or that we say Black people pioneered that you love or would like to celebrate?
Ooh, where do I start?
Yeah.
I mean, music is obviously something we just touched on.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, that's probably it. Because I think for me, we spoke about how music is something we can't live without.
Yes.
And I think just from us singing, even in choirs, singing as in churches, all the way to huge productions in studios such as this one.
Yes.
It's like we've had our finger on the pulse when it comes to what people listen to, auditory space.
Yeah, that's true.
I just find that, I don't know, it's everyone takes their piece of music and, makes it their own, but it's all rooted somehow, somewhere along the line in Blackness.
For sure.
I feel.
As you mentioned, Elvis Presley, the rock and roll, Beach Boys, all these people, the influence of that. I agree with music. I also think in fashion. Remember, we watched Next in Fashion, and we watched this season with actually a Zimbabwean born Farai Simoe, and she was talking about her and her partner in the competition were talking about the streetwear.
Yeah.
And, things like rockaware and FUBU and all that, and how that really influenced, culture. And how, for example, breakdancing helped really propel Adidas and then, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
If you look at Michael Jordan, what he did with Nike.
Yeah.
So many elements that have influenced and still to this day influence how we dress.
Yeah.
And Aaliyah giving us the 90s low cut
definitely
jeans and whatnot.
Yeah.
That still lives on to this day. So definitely so many elements. And then now we're seeing this pride, African pride in how we dress. And that's, I think we need to credit West Africa a lot, Nigerians, Ghanaians,
definitely.
for being proudly, preserving their culture and their dress so that, we too, as Zimbabweans who we often speak about diluted a lot of our culture, can now still feel good and proud about that.
Yeah, because they're definitely proud. Like traditional wear, everything.
Yes.
So it's very different from us, I think. And we've adopted that. I remember even at Chorora, we all wore like traditional. But then is that even traditional to Zim?
No, not at all.
No, but African inspired.
African, exactly. But I think there's so much, we have, if you've watched Hidden Figures, about the influence of, I forget their names, in NASA.
NASA, yeah.
And how mathematically they impacted that. Sport.
Yeah.
If you look at athletes, it's all based off the power and strength of, I guess, the slaves that were traded, the strongest, the fastest, who traded off to the US. If you look at food, so I just feel like
talking about seasoning, there's always those jokes on TikTok about not seasoning your food properly.
Enough, yeah,
definitely.
So there's
true.
So many elements of it.
You probably already mentioned it, but what do you think it is about Black people that makes us beautiful?
I think you actually touched on it, which is just our grace and giving enough space for others. Even though we go through a lot, we're still able to welcome. And I think that's part of what made us get colonized, by the way.
We're too passive. We're too Mr. Nice Guy.
Exactly. Not me coming back to colonization and like turning the... But that being willing to share ourselves and our culture and being communal oriented, I think that's just, one of the beautiful things about us. Of course, we can go on a physical, our skin, our beauty, how youthful we can look even as we grow older, just our style and our pride in how we look. I don't know, our languages,
I think if you look, especially when you talked about the nurturing aspect of us, I think I remember like even during slavery, they had a lot of like nurses. What do they call night nurses?
Yes.
Like for the kids, kids were raised by the help, and the help tended to be Black. And I think that notion still happens, even if you look at Zimbabwe, the same setup.
Yes.
Where it's like we can always rely on our mothers to hold us up, no matter if they're suffering and going through a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that permeates in how we are with other races and how we interact with other races. There's a lot of prank videos I see, and a lot of times it's Black people who actually step in and say something, and something mean is happening. Because I think we've felt so marginalized that we're always looking out for it.
Yeah.
And there's not a bashing of other races in any respect. It's just us taking time to acknowledge and take a pat on the back for our ancestors that have come,
and
before us,
impacted us,
and we stand on the shoulders of today.
And also resilience. I think that's one of the beautiful things about us, that we've stood the test of time in spite of all these things, and we are not embittered. Well, obviously there's some people who are. There's a generalization. But I think that is testament to just who we are, as in spite of, we still are giving and loving and not, resilience. And it's really, really amazing to even think about. But how do we as Black people maintain our beauty in spite of our suffering? So we've talked about resilience. So how do we actually do that in spite of suffering, alienation, and oppression? What do you think it is?
I think we do have a spirit of don't care.
Okay.
A spirit of confidence.
Yeah.
A spirit of being comfortable with the space we're in. Like I find there's nothing worse than coming from a styling point of view than walking into a shop and all the clothes are too not your size because you got ass
and hips
or hips. Because you operate always as othered, always as left out. You then almost kind of build this thick skin, this confidence where it's like, well, they already don't have space for me, so I gotta fit in or at least, push myself in. Otherwise, I'm not there. I'm not considered at all.
Yeah.
And I think when you always operate like that, it builds this muscle where you're like, well, I can face anything. I guess that's the resilience that you're talking of.
Yes.
But I think that does hold us well, especially when we move away from our homes. A lot of us are not living where we were raised or where we were actually from because of economic reasons. A lot of the times it's economic. So we just always look back home as a reference. And this podcast is certainly rooted in that.
Definitely.
That aspect.
Definitely. And I think it's telling our stories too. I remember growing up, my grandma would tell us Tsurona Gudo stories and, you know, yeah, and things like that also verbally, right? We're very much like we
orators
pass it on, you know, things like that. And I think we also maintain it. Religion, as much as we spoke about religion and some of the limitations of it, forgiveness, I think, is a big part of Blackness. And that's what enables us to keep going and not be bitter and like we really held on to religion, sometimes to our detriment. But I think sometimes it also helps us to forgive so we can keep on, you know, not hold on to the baggage so much so we can actually keep going. Because imagine if we had just like all the hate just festering.
I know. I mean, even think of South Africa where you lived for a while.
Yes.
It's like, how do you move past apartheid, you know? And 94 is not, when you think of historically, 94 is not that long ago.
At all.
And those people are still living today in some sort of society together.
Yeah.
You know, so it does take a lot of forgiveness to move past those atrocities. And so, it's a commendable thing. But it does have its drawbacks. Like, are we too forgiving?
I think so.
Are we too just like, well,
that's
you know,
life.
Yeah, it happens, or make it work. Especially Zimbabweans with this make it work mentality. A lot of people are like, why didn't you protest when you're under dictatorship?
Yes.
You know, why you can't stand for that? You might have to take arms. You might have to bleed on the streets to free yourselves under that oppression. Yeah. But we chose to just be like, we'll make it work.
Thug it out. I think also to dance and music, as we've said, we sing and dance when we're happy. We sing and dance when we're sad at funerals and things like that. I think that's also what's carried us. We've already spoken about music, but I'm talking about it in kind of like the traditional way.
Yeah.
I think that moving your body, you know, they talk about it if you want to let go of stress or anxiety, to move your body, not just physically like running or exercising, but also dancing and singing. And, and I think it's a part of who we are. And I think it helps us to release a lot of the baggage and the way. My mom always used to say that she thinks Black Americans can sing incredibly well because they suffered so much and singing was the only way to release a lot of that pent-up frustration and hurt.
Tracks.
And so they really she specifically was referring to gospel music and how, you know, they really like, a lot of the artists come from gospel music, right?
I think a lot of them all grew up with that culture.
Yes,
That's where they honed their voice, even told they could sing.
Yes.
Because at young ages, they were leading choirs or,
exactly.
you know.
Whitney Houston and all. So,
I mean, what are the common elements that you think can be found in most Black cultures or households, you know? Growing up Black.
I think it's the whole listen to your elders, respect the elders at all costs.
It's all costs. Even if they're wrong. Even if this person's a pedophile, we now all gotta like work our way around him in the family.
Just like, stay away from that uncle.
Yeah, stay away from him.
And I'm like, maybe he shouldn't be here.
Can we? Yeah, like
just
why
don't
are we
invite
being
him?
Exposed?
Yeah, like leave us be. Definitely, I think that respect element. I think that not being able to be yourself and just like having a piece of you hidden. Yes.
Do you also think us like trying to overachieve? Like, you know, Nigerians are now known, I think in America and Ghanaian Americans, they're being seen as they're the ones who in the next generation are going to be a lot of like doctors and stuff are coming from that background.
Yes.
Do you think it's just because we're just also trying to make up for lost time?
The pressure is getting worse.
Yes, right?
100%. I think definitely it's about you have to be super educated. You have to be, you know, keep learning, keep achieve. I think that's probably universal, having to deal with burying parts of yourself so as to meet the requirements and demands of your parents and society. And the burden of that. Yes.
So
we've spoken about
true.
This too many times before. So I think
come back before dark, growing up Black as well.
Definitely.
Don't you be staying out all.
Don't go to the neighbors.
Yeah.
Don't ask for, like, when you go visit your friends or whatever, don't ask for, like, water or juice. Don't open the fridge.
Don't eat at someone else's house.
Yeah. So when you see other kids just going to another person's fridge and you're just like, oh my Lord.
You cannot be doing that. No.
Cannot be done. Like, who are you? Do you think that people undermine our beauty as Black people?
That they undermine us?
Yes. Maybe not giving credit where it's due.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's also lack of documentation.
Yes.
So see, people call, like, what is it, the Bo Derek braids, which were where Kim then said she got her inspiration for cornrows. Because I think she was Bo Derek was on, like, a Bond movie in the 60s, and she was a Bond girl, one of the quintessential Bond girls. You probably have seen her, and then she had, like, beads
just
coming out of the
water.
Of the ocean, and I think Halle Berry recreated her scene.
Yeah,
and it's like that, where it's like, because we have lack of documentation, it's easier to feel inspired, and then not credit.
Yes,
you see it on TikTok all the time. I think they had the girl who everyone knows on TikTok. I forgot the name now. And she went on Jimmy Fallon and she did all the dances.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, Jimmy Fallon, she didn't come up, these are trends that are on TikTok, and you need to actually call the original people. And they were all predominantly African American.
Yes.
And it's like that, where it's like, because we don't document our stuff, it's open season. And then it's putting responsibility on the other person to do their research and then, credit. But we also need to be a bit more, like, protective, I guess.
Yes.
About it, which I guess we're learning now. We're becoming more and more what's in this for me.
Yes.
Which hasn't typically been the way we've approached things.
Yeah. You're so right.
Yeah.
That thing of I was talking about my grandma telling stories to us, but never writing. She never wrote down, like, this is the story of Tsuro Nagudo, or what was the other one? I forget the story, but, like, it's all, I'll have to ask my mom. And if she's, we don't document. And I remember, we've spoken about family trees and me saying, okay, I think we need to put together a family tree, but otherwise you just, like, living, like, I don't know what my great grandparent was, who it was, what they did.
Yeah.
So, not documenting enough for sure.
Do you think we ourselves undermine our own Blackness as Black people?
Yes. And I think it is by virtue of wanting to be accepted, because sometimes our Blackness is a bit too strange, or so wanting to assimilate. So then we sometimes shun our Blackness, trying to be more closer to
Eurocentric standards of beauty.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think, too, we don't appreciate the beauty of what we do. We speak a lot about the creative industry in Zimbabwe. And, for example, the sculptors who sell their works on the side of the road and how people don't really appreciate. Yeah. It's not really in a lot of museums or galleries.
Yeah.
But had we been European, we would document, we would, value it, it would be priceless, things like that. But then it's like, oh, the creative industry it's not an industry, it doesn't work, it's not.
Do you think
valuable.
that comes from overexposure of talent, though? Like, in your family, if all of you can sing, is Whitney really gonna, stand out? You know what I mean? Or is it like, when you get like the Braxton family or Jackson family, when all of them sing? Do you think it comes from that? Where do you think it comes from? Us trying to...
I think so. I mean, you were joking about, I would sing if, Rumbi, why don't you sing? But it's like, I feel like everyone can sing, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's an element of that for sure. But I also think of it being so common, again, I guess commonplace. So then it's like, there's no real value, but also us valuing professions or things that seem esteemed in some degree, but not necessarily a core part of who we are.
Okay, I see.
And so it's a catch-22.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that whole white is right and black is whack, it rhymes, element of it all, and self-on self-hate, like self-hate is a part of it. due to many reasons, which we've spoken about prior.
We tie it all back to colonialism, don't we? We somehow find our way.
It's their fault.
Back.
Pay reparations. Reparations.
Yeah, I think because for so long we were told we're not good enough.
Yes.
That now we almost believe it.
You buy into it.
Yeah, you
buy
do.
Into the lie.
And then one of the things I love about going to South Africa is seeing Black people on billboards.
Oh, yes.
Because it's and we talked about in our privilege episode, we didn't really talk about that. Like seeing ourselves everywhere is a privilege.
Yes.
Or not, right? And when you live in a country like this where it's like they're proudly Australian, but that's also proudly one version of being Australian. I mean, there's First Nations people here too. They should be on billboards just as much.
Yes.
But it's like they're catering to a certain demographic, certain market. And then it becomes, okay, the people want to have blonde hair and they want to have like contacts in because they want to align themselves with whiteness because that's what they see and that's what's being perceived as, in my ideal world, if I had to create a world, I'd want everyone to be seen equally and thus the world is mixed.
Yeah.
Everyone sees everyone sees everything.
Yeah.
But like in this scenario where it's like you have to be a certain body shape, a certain look, a certain hair color, eye color, then it becomes, if you're not that, you're either going to resent it or you're going to try become that. There's only two options for you, right?
But when your hips ain't fitting and then jeans.
Girl.
What you gonna do? Wear leggings. Would you ever consider or want to be anything but Black, even just for a day?
Oh, it's quite sad that I've actually stopped to answer that, right?
Yeah.
The answer is just meant to be,
hell no.
I love being Black. I think I would want to be a white guy named Paul.
Yeah, 100%.
Why
just
Paul? I don't know. But just walk around with that energy.
So people aren't judging me, second guessing, respect on my name as soon as I walk in the door.
Be a subpar white guy and still get excellent results.
That's what I'm rooting for.
I think that's what I would love to experience.
Yes. Just
how does it feel? Because if I'm too confident, I'm bitchy.
Yeah.
If I'm too quiet, I'm meek. I don't know anything or I'm dumb.
Yeah.
If I'm too, everything, I'm too. And if you remove all those twos and you soften yourself up, who are you?
Yeah.
You've lost that quirk that makes you that person.
Yeah, that's true.
So sometimes I'm like, how does it feel to be average?
Yeah.
And still
have the confidence.
And still have confidence.
Walk around. People
for people who are talented, come on. That's different. I'm just talking about the general Joe who can still somehow be, revered or think of himself as, I still got it.
I got it. I'm the ish.
Yeah. What do you think?
I definitely... Just one day, not forever, because I also like my rhythm and, I like my, there's a lot I like about myself. I like my hair. I like, but just to be like, wow, how the other, whatever, 50%, what is that?
As you said, tying it back to the Barbie movie, like when Ken left Barbie Land and he's like, oh,
life like this?
Yeah.
It'd be good.
Yeah.
I'd love to experience that for a day. But then I think we offer so much. And I think part of the journey of life is to embrace all of you and to love being you because there's no point wishing to be what you're not. Because you're denying a part of yourself. Yeah. So I think I've worked too hard to embrace myself and appreciate myself. To
just take that all away.
To just be like, oh yeah, take it,
Yeah, but I think I would only like it in spaces where decisions have to be made.
Yes.
So when you saw Beyonce on the Renaissance movie, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But she pretty much wants certain lighting.
Yes.
Or a certain fisheye camera.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't have it.
We don't have it.
That's the widest we've got. And she's like, I used Google.
And Google told me.
And obviously talking to Beyonce, so there is access to money.
Yes.
There's access to, it's not like they can turn around and say, oh, you can't afford it.
Yes.
We decided for you. No, then they're like, oh yeah, it is there. Literally their response was, oh yeah. So either they're trying to fool her and make it seem
or too lazy.
Or they're too lazy to look it up. Or they
so
assumed she didn't know what she was talking about.
Yeah.
But whatever the situation was, made me think, had that conversation happened with the assistant of the director, who's a white guy, then it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Even if it was just someone who has no experience, they would have been like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. But it was this is Beyonce, and you're still making her question herself.
When I saw that, I was like, it's late for me.
Yeah, right?
Brumby, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Good luck.
So I think I would love it when it's decision-making time, because then the respect would be there.
Yes.
The being able to just say what I want to say in my mind and not be judged.
Yes.
or
Definitely.
be accused of
Or not
being
have to second guess
bossy
yourself.
Or oh, should I keep quiet? Or should I push in this space and then keep quiet on that one? I can't push on everything.
Every angle, yeah. Again, bringing back to Succession, just because I've been watching it. That dad, what's his name? Logan. Roy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, he feels like he deserves the world and to have his cake, eat it too, and then yours.
Yeah.
And nobody can tell him nothing. And that kind
energy?
of GDE.
Yeah.
I'm about that life just for a day. Because I think you also need to be nice.
Just to be nice.
Yeah.
What is it about Blackness that you feel then intimidates other races? If there is intimidation there.
I think we have that sauce, flavor. We have that thing
Yeah.
that you can't put your finger on. It's the X factor, that it thing. Yeah. So it's like, how come you get to have that and I don't?
Yeah.
And that's why they try to emulate us, Miley Cyrus.
Feels like you're talking to someone specifically here.
No. So that's why they try to emulate or to be it, because it's like they do it, but they still can't do it like how we do. You know what I mean? And I think that's why people struggle to embrace. And I think, for fear of being, what's the word? Not washed out, but like being made redundant.
Okay. Yeah.
Again,
you have to keep yourself relevant.
Yeah. And the fact that we've been able to stay relevant and, push boundaries in spite of all the oppression. If we were allowed to be our full self, Hokoyo world, watch out. I don't think they would have been able to handle it.
But don't you think, and this is playing devil's advocate, that they could, especially like, let's say, for example, white people could think the same thing about us trying to emulate them. The wearing of contacts to have different color eyes.
Okay, but I already clothes, think it's problematic.
My weaves, I'm wearing a weave today. Like that type of vibe that, okay, but then if you're so proud, why can't you just...
Because you guys didn't let us. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. If I wear my afro at work, it'll be deemed unprofessional.
Yes.
So because you do that, then I'm forced to...
Yeah, you guys set it up this way that we are made to not fully embrace all of us. Sorry, I'm not going to give them that.
You tried, but no.
But
I think for me, the loudness is intimidating.
Yes.
We typically, like we spoke about going back to our first episode of the special, how you think you're an introvert. And I said, if I didn't know you, I would probably think, oh my gosh, she's very loud, she's confident.
Yeah.
So those things can be seen, I think, by other races to be intimidating. True. Don't you know? Like we don't know. We also don't respect space because our culture doesn't respect space.
I ain't gonna lie. Especially Zimbabweans. It's like we take over, and I'm like, relax. There's other things.
Like when people marry into different cultures, they expect you to just adopt the Zimbabwean culture. Like
I had to do
but
that.
It's 50-50.
I had to remind me, like, there's a whole other person with a whole other culture. Can we respect? Yeah.
Don't just assume yours is the one to be revered and followed.
Too confy, bruh. So now we're too confy. Even in the oppression, we're too confy. Imagine if we were...
We have to go being up for last time.
No, it's too much. I feel like calm down, like Rema said. What would you say to a young Black person trying to find the beauty in their Blackness, in the madness of our world? Like, what would you say?
I would say don't compare yourself. There's no other you. Yeah. I think that's quite important too. You want to fit in, of course, but don't fit in to the point where it's like you're not you.
Yeah.
Celebrate those parts of you. Educate those parts of you. Sometimes people just shun or seem like they're not interested because they don't know.
True.
Right? We're all waiting to be exposed to things. I know when I first moved to Australia, Asian culture was a whole big exposure for me as well. Because at home was just everyone was Asian, Chinese. You know how it is, right? It's like Chinese. And you're like, no, there's like a whole continent that's not just. So I think like it took a lot of education for me, took a lot of interest, took a lot of, for me to be like, to peel away and understand the culture. And I think a lot of times people just look at it surface level.
Yes.
And I think I would say advice to people who feel misunderstood is sometimes maybe stop. It sucks to have to be always in an education. But when you are a minority, obviously you might have to, some part of you might always have to stay in that learning or educating space, just so that people, when they interact with you, can walk away better for it. They understand the nuances within Blackness.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just do everything to fit in and lose yourself, you're not benefiting what got you there to begin with.
True. And you also have to be the bigger person, which is
Yeah.
like her saying learning. It's like, why can't people learn about me? But it's just, unfortunately, the way the world is wired. But also learning, think of learning for your benefit, as Amanda has said. I think also finding your community that helps you believe in and celebrate who you are, especially when you are a minority or away from home, or find a community, even who you follow on social media. Find community that feeds you to feel like, okay, I see myself. That's why we talk about representation. So kids of today, Gen Zers, you're so lucky to grow up in a world where you can see people who look like you in so many spaces. When we grew up, we had magazines and never, you're just like, it was all whitewashed.
That's why Naomi Campbell is like a mother. We love her because we're like, even people tell us stories about her being a diva. We're like, but it's Naomi, untouchable, because she was the first supermodel we saw on ad campaigns worldwide.
Exactly. So
and dark skinned as well.
Exactly. But now you can really curate your feed to feed you and encourage you.
Yeah.
And you know, it helps you also develop a level of like, okay, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
And I think truly your difference is something to celebrate, because in a way you can bring to the table something people don't have. And that's special, right?
It is. It is.
Yeah,
definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you want the world to know or change their prejudices about Blackness?
I would love the world not to be so afraid of it. It's not contagious. You're not going to touch me and get black. I don't know. Like, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
And one thing I really want the world to know is we are just human like you.
Yeah. Oh, that part.
We feel the same. We cry like you. We're scared like you. We're happy like you. We literally, how you feel, we have the same. We're not an animal. We're not like monkeys. We're just humans just like you. With the exact same emotions, feelings. And we're just asking for room to be alive and just respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I agree with you, co-sign. And I also think I would just add on to say that we're not here for other people's entertainment.
Ooh. Say it again.
I hate it when people are like, oh my gosh, you got some, go girl. And I'm just like, stop. Like, first of all,
teach me how to twerk.
That's African American. I'm not even African American. I don't speak like that. And even if I do, it's my choice. Like, it's just, don't walk around assuming you know a lot and then putting those assumptions onto me.
Yeah.
Blackness is very nuanced. You know, a First Nations Black person, me, African American, you know, Latina, all these different, we're all the same way you can assume someone from Finland and someone from Australia might not be same for same.
Yes.
It's the same way we operate too. Yeah. So I think sometimes it's like you're black and it's like one color, one shade.
It's not homogenous.
Whereas we know in whiteness or even sometimes even in Asian culture, you give space for differences.
Versions. Yeah.
And I would like to see that more, I think, not just painted with the one brush.
You can get a black person who loves rock music and hates R&B. You can get someone. There's just so many varieties. And, you know, as we always say, Africa is not a country, y'all. It's not the same. I don't know. Just because you met one Tapiwa doesn't mean I know them. Or you know a Kenyan doesn't mean I know that. Like, yeah, definitely.
That one needs to stop.
Just educate yourself. I think the basis of our podcast is really like educate yourself. Yeah. Educate yourself.
At the end of the day, it's layered and educate yourself.
Yeah, really, truly, madly, deeply do. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I think I just, celebrate us and, you know, who we are. Even though I feel like we do a lot of the times call ourselves out, our people out for the things we do. We also love it to
crazy things
to be black, to be who we are. You gotta say, crazy though. When we were in high school, we didn't really fucks with ourselves like a lot of our culture.
That's
the way
another.
We do now.
We need therapy over those high school.
Yeah,
I actually found that when I was in high school, predominantly white school, that I learned how to operate, and I use those same skills now that I'm in Australia.
Yeah,
but the like handoff with that was that now I don't know how to operate in my own space. Ooh. You know, and I think that's what I've also started learning like how to be around my own people as well. It's great to have exposure, but not to the point where you strips you of you.
Yeah. And learning to keep quiet. I used to struggle. I used to be like, oh, hell no. And my family would say, what now? So what? Sometimes you just need to be like, sure, okay, and not do it. I don't know. Like, this is really like sometimes just like, yeah, whatever. You know, but it's true. It's true. It's very true.
What have you loved about this special, Rimbi?
Being here with you.
Apart from that.
Yeah, like live in the flesh. I think just seeing us what we could be if we weren't long distance. It's always like, you know, a double-edged sword, like the basis of this podcast, which is our friendship, which is being long distance. So you get a taste of like, oh, what life would be like if we were closer. But definitely grateful to have this, to have it in this setup. The team helping us, you know, who have been so lovely. I think, it's just been like such a special moment. As I said, something I'd love to tell my future kids, God willing, that we managed to do this.
It's a special moment in time.
Yeah. And
I think I've loved that we've taken time to do this and elevate it as well. Like, because we're in a studio, child. Like, come on now.
Level up.
This is different from our laptop on Zoom. Like, it's a different vibe.
When we go back, guys, please don't hate us. Like,
I know. When we go back to normal, we call this a special.
That's why. Because it's special. Yeah, but don't hate on us when we're back on our Zoom.
Yeah. You have to get on your Zoom.
Yeah, literally.
But like, I think it's just that we did acknowledge that, okay, we need to do something a bit special for our listeners, for our fans, for ourselves, for the culture, as we're saying. So I really, really appreciate you being on board with us, our listeners, and Rimbi coming on board on plane.
Literally.
To fly into Melbourne. It's been such a treasure having you here.
Thank you. And thanks for having me, Melbeezy. Apparently that's not what they call it.
Nobody calls it Melbeezy.
But, you know, in my head, they just remake a Roombix. Yeah. But no, thank you so much. We hope you've enjoyed this little treat.
Rate us, review, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Follow us. All the things, as we have to say. And thanks, Am, for having me. It's
been a treat. Here's to many more. Boom, 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 boom.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.